Greetings, YouTube, as I continue to wait on my hunt for the missing limb, aka Aegon, and while I contemplate what to do with my Nick Fury. Two champions are my MVPs in the current version of the game for me. The first is Corvus, who continues to be my Map 5 Alliance Quest Slayer, and I'm very lucky to be part of an alliance that saves me the best fights to maximize my missions for Corvus, including the Avengers charge, doubled up with the tech charge, and then doing Path 2 in Tier 1, which gets me a mutant charge, etc. But really, as much as I love my bae, Quake, who continues to be somebody that I just will always have the most affinity for, because she was the first time that I really had a new strategy when it came to my classic parry and counter strategy that not only worked, it was just a lot of fun. Charging the heavy, parry, charge the heavy, parry, rinse and repeat. Sometimes maybe releasing the heavy to fire it off. It was just a lot of fun. It still is a lot of fun, and it probably always will be a lot of fun. But Omega Red is the champion that this mastery setup that I have tweaked just a bit, and that's why we're covering the video today, is the best mastery setup I have ever seen for Omega Red. And I'm sure there might be others that enjoy their setup more, but for me and for what I care about, which is twofold, maximizing my points in the arena while also making sure my Corvus and my Omega are doing the most damage to make sure that my fights last the least in terms of amount of time. This mastery setup is everything. So it is without further ado that I want to go through and talk about this new, slightly different than before setup, because it has one major difference that we will touch on. I know that one of the criticisms I get when I show my mastery setup is that I don't have enough points in courage. There are quite a few people who have told me that courage is not broken, and I'm dumb to not have at least 2 points, if not 3 points in it. And I get that argument, and maybe I am. Certainly wouldn't be the first time. But for the offensive tree, I would rather put 3 points in Deep Wounds and 2 points in Assassin than, for example, take those down to 2 and 1 respectively, so that I would put those 2 points in Courage. Deep Wounds is still huge, because potentially I think that needs to at least be at 3 out of 5 if I do end up taking up Nick Fury. But besides that, Blade is still a huge part of my attack team. My attack team currently is the classic Holy Trinity of Blade, Stark, Spidey, and Ghost Rider, followed by Omega Red, and either Sabretooth as I continue to rank him up, or Deadpool X-Force, just because of that synergy with Omega Red. Because of that, Deep Wounds still is really important to me. I noticed almost zero difference between Precision at rank 5 and Precision at rank 4. So just to let you know, I don't regret this at all. I'd rather take the mastery point that I save, which was always previously maximizing this, taking it down to 4 and putting it in a better place. You can see from the top right that Glass Cannon is maxed. Recoil is, as always, 1 out of 3, but Liquid Courage and Double Edge are also maxed. A crazy amount of units that went into the Mastery Cores, and of course, I unlocked this before the ISO 8 store even existed, and now, those of you who are looking to do this, if you do have the Cavalier status and you've got that monthly subscription service, you're saving a decent amount of units per couple weeks on one of the 2 main Mastery Cores. Deep Wounds at 3, Assassin at 2, that's done real well for me. I don't really use my 565 Void anymore, so my Despair at 1 out of 3 is not really hurting me. However, something that still is really helping me is allowing my defense to expand to 3 out of 3 on willpower. And this has also allowed me a reminder that block proficiency at 4 out of 4 is key to, of course, taking as little damage as possible on defense. I'm also a fan, especially because I sometimes like to bait the heavy attacks of champions, because I am a passive fighter in this game, to continue to have 2 points and stand your ground. It has saved me before in fights, Even though some people say it's a worthless mastery, for my defensive style, it's very needed. If I was an intercepting master and I never baited heavies, I wouldn't use this. But I know my limits, and I know when I get into trouble, and that's when I try to intercept too much. So for the player that likes to parry, Stand Your Ground is really effective, particularly against unstunnable nodes or even limber nodes. I also want to say that I continue to have salve at max and recovery at max. Now, there are some people who've said, Prof, you really don't need salve at anything besides 1 out of 3. I do like the extra health per tick. I think that it's not much, but at the same time, it's enough to where once the bleed expires on the champion, it's just poison. My champs often don't lose health. They stay at like a net gain of 0, or sometimes they even still gain 1 or 2 based off of salve plus willpower for the rest of the fight. Now, what I have done, and this has been a huge difference in my mastery setup for Omega Red, and I'm trying to show this by the end of the video, is I have taken 1 point off of a specific mastery and put it on Coagulate. Omega Red used to take about 15 to 17 damage, give or take, per poison tick or per bleed tick. That has gone away. And there were a couple people who messaged me on the Line app over the last month or so who've said, Prof, you should really consider putting 1 point in Coagulate to negate that damage for Omega Red. So I tried it, and I absolutely love it. Now, what I did in return is I took 1 point off of parry. You can see now parry is not maxed. It's 2 out of 3 instead of 3 out of 3. That's the first time in a long time I haven't had parry maxed, but I still do have Stupefy maxed. And I've got to be honest, YouTube, there is no noticeable difference for me between having parry at 2 out of 3 versus 3 out of 3 as long as I have Stupefy maxed. I'm sure if I fight tougher opponents where I'm going to take more block damage, I might notice a difference, but for the moment, I have not. So I do want to show you, as we near the end of this video, just simply put what Omega Red hits like. Now I'm just kind of exploring some master mode content, so this is not the best use of the fight, but I'm going to allow myself to get hit a couple times with Drax at the beginning just to show you. So let's take a combo at the beginning. There we go. Okay. So check that out. 127 damage with no other expiring. And that is just the beauty of Coagulate. You might think 15 or 17 doesn't make a big difference, but in terms of my enjoyment of Omega Red, it really does. That allows me 127 regeneration per second for Omega Red, and the health that I just lost in order to show that fight, I'm confident I can recoup over the course of the rest of the fights in this path. I am a huge fan of putting 1 point in Coagulate, and I do think taking parry down to 2 out of 3 is not that much of a noticeable difference at all. I am open to suggestions as always because I want to improve my mastery setup as time continues. And I do think that there might be some people, I can already anticipate, who when I'm going to defense will say, Prof, take out salve down to 1 and put those 2 points maybe, for example, in deep wounds or assassin or courage. That's the popular suggestion. But I think for my enjoyment of the game, I really like my mastery setup where it is. I continue to make it even better, and this is something that I have to thank the community for because I started this game and knew nothing about mastery. I put everything into greater strength, courage, and pierce because, quite frankly, I was like, I like attack. Yeah, I don't know what attack is, but you're telling me I can increase the attack of all champions by 1.6%? Yeah, I definitely want to do that. And this was not for like the first 6 months, because when I first started playing 4 years ago, a lot of the YouTube stuff, of course, didn't exist. This was for like the first year and a half of my gameplay. It was a terrible first year and a half, and I feel like such an idiot. But at the same time, my loss is your gain, and I want to make sure now that I do my best to help people so that you can, instead of pointing a bunch of points into strength and greater strength, you know what it takes to get the maximum PI. I want to leave you, the viewer, with a look of my PI now. I took out parry from 1 point, and at the same time, by putting it in Coagulate, it wasn't a big jump, and I'm not saying that PI makes that big of a difference when you're only changing by 20 to say arena points, but at the same time, this is the highest the PI for my champions has ever been. Captain Marvel movie version is at 16,630. You can see Omega Reds at 15,720, and even my 6-star Corvus, who's not, of course, awakened, is now over 15,000. And you better believe that those points, which were the likes of only back in the day if I used 20 or even 30% boosts for 40 minutes to an hour, now I get those points regardless of whether or not I'm boosted, and that really cuts down the amount of time that I spend in the 5-star featured arena and even the 3-star arena and the 4-star arenas. So, yeah, that's my mastery setup version, good lord, maybe like 17. I just want to say thank you to everybody who continues to give me feedback, to tweak it. I want this to be as good a setup as possible for the community and for Omega Red, for Corvus, for the arena, for Alliance Quest, for questing in general. Man, this has been a ton of fun. Hopefully you can see that from this video. And otherwise, thanks for watching the video. Have a great day. And as always, thank you for watching and supporting the Marvel Contest of Champions YouTube channel.